Good morning. We're back to Creationism versus Evolution from Genesis chapter 1. And we wanted to look at the canopy over the earth, separation of the waters. So let's look at K13, the file name. That's where we kind of left off. Genesis 1:14-18. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. And God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. So, the stars are evidently in color. And the biblical record states that God set the stars in the firmament. The ancients described the firmament as a vault above the earth, and the stars were placed in this vault. This is not what the biblical record says to us. The biblical record states very clearly that God set the stars in the firmament, much as a jeweler would enhance a diamond by placing it on a background of black velvet. The word set is taken from the Hebrew word Nathan. It means to add and yield. In other words, the stars are not physically placed in the firmament because they are great distances away. But as light from the stars penetrates the firmament, there is a very strong magnetic field in the middle. It is superconductive without any resistance to the flow of electrons. On each side is an electromagnetic field charged to a lesser degree in the crystalline water formation. What is then presented is in a pressurized form on each side is a photomultiplier. Each photon of light which strikes the configuration is multiplied by 10 because of the interaction in the atoms. On the other side of the canopy, the stars were seen with 10 times the photons that the light brought to the outer surface of the canopy. Before the flood, the stars were seen by man as being about 3 times brighter than they are seen today. In other words, in the firmament, God set the stars, or added and yielded their dimensions in full color. NASA has found that when a red filter is used in space, the stars appear in beautiful color. This is exciting because God put the stellar bodies in space for signs, for days, and for months, and for years. And we understand that this, by observing the rotation of the earth in relation to the movement of the sun and the moon and other heavenly bodies, we can tell times. But now we can perceive that with the enhancement of the light, those before the flood could, by the configuration of the stars, tell time at any moment. They would not need a Rolex watch. They would have something far better. So, researcher Dan Cook spoke to one of the physicists involved in the hydrogen bomb project at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories. That physicist related to him that the scientists there some years back took the elements of water and compressed them under super cold cryogenic circumstances. Hydrogen became near metallic in form and took on the characteristics of metal. It became crystalline, transparent, fiber optic, superconductive, and ferromagnetic. All of these characteristics have tremendous implications. The hydrogen in the water was compressed and energized, and the pressure held in stasis form because of the crystalline ice on each side, for the biblical record states that God made the firmament in the middle with water above and water beneath. Under such super cold circumstances, where great pressure exists, in addition to tremendous energy, hydrogen takes on metallic characteristics. Envision the earth before the flood, with a firmament consisting of compressed, energized hydrogen taking on near metallic characteristics, and in the middle of a solid water formation suspended about 11 miles above the earth, where it's super cold. This configuration would have done some wonderful things. On day number 4, when the sun was created, the energy of the sun upon this hydrogen would have caused a gentle pink coloration in the sky. At sunrise and sunset, there would have been a vivid pink coloration, and at midnight there would have been a magenta pink sky. In other words, the sky before the flood was never totally dark. So, the biblical record states that God made the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. Not darkness, but the lesser light. We have assumed for centuries that the greater light was the sun and the lesser light was the moon. The moon certainly bears an impact on and to some degree affects the earth. And the moon does not always remain in visual form for however. The lesser light ruling the night consequently was not only the moon, even though the moon certainly has a purpose in the orchestrated model. The lesser light ruling the night included transfer of energy from the day side of the earth along the lines of the firmament. The electromagnetic energy was carried along the elemental lines of near-magnetic hydrogen, which is fiber optic in nature. This would cause a twilight glow on the night side of the earth, while on the day side of the earth, the greater light would literally rule the day. So, the statement is made that this light ruled the day. Scientists and researchers are finding that the most popular important color in the entire spectrum is pink. This is the color that is produced by energized hydrogen. They find that plants grow better under pink light and that individuals respond in mood to pink light. Researchers have found that when a person is affected by the right spectrum of pink light, the brain secretes norepinephrine, is a natural tranquilizer and neurotransmitter. Before the flood, man was dominated by various spectra of pink light. The tranquility of his environment offered him the ability to have his brain work at maximum efficiency. The firmament made that possible with a gentle pink glow in various spectral forms, with the greater light ruling the day and the lesser light ruling the night. God made a wonderful orchestral creation, and man ultimately received the full benefit. There are records archaeologically discerned among many cultures which refer to a time in the past when the sky hung low. Physicists at Lawrence Livermore Laboratories took the element of hydrogen, an element of water, and compressed it under supercold temperatures. When the pressure reached a certain degree under diamond points, the hydrogen took on near metallic characteristics, superconductive, transparent, fiber optic, ferromagnetic, and crystalline in form. The Hebrew word for firmament is rakia, which means to press or pound together into thin metal sheets. This is the explanation of how the canopy or arch of heaven was formed and stretched out around the world in thin metal sheets. One of the elements in water, hydrogen, binds together in crystalline lattice. Under such pressurized transformation, the hydrogen in water takes on the characteristics as described in the biblical account of creation. We are informed in Genesis 1:16 that the greater light was to rule the day and the lesser light was to rule the night. The transfer of light fiber optically means that the greater penetration of light during the day would produce varying shades of pink, and the lesser light would produce a deeper shade of pink in addition to an enhanced moon. Biologists have found that the greatest plant growth is encouraged under pink light. Further investigation has revealed that it is pink light which ultimately triggers the growth of cells within plants. Now, a contributing factor to the enormous size of plant life before the flood, as evidenced by the fossil record, was energized by hydrogen in the firmament giving off the pinkish glow. And we have the enormous size of plant life in the antediluvian world also dictated the size of certain forms of animal life, such as just dinosaurs. On day number 6, the final animal life was created. And in order to keep the vegetation in balance, such huge plant-eating creatures were required. After the flood, the decline in the size and abundance of plant life would not have supported the dinosaurs for very long. Even elephants today in Africa are threatened by the lack of needed vegetation to support reduced partial pressure in the atmosphere, which played an even greater role in the demise of the dinosaur. You have reduced partial pressure, you have reduced oxygen available, and that's why the big dinosaurs became extinct. In the world before the flood, the light would be at its lowest pink hue at high noon because of the angle of the light passing through the firmament. But just as important, envision the firmament, this double bubble of crystalline water, and the effect it would have upon the atmospheric pressure is as follows. The atmosphere would be pressurized to a greater degree than we have now. Researchers like Dr. Henry Voss at the University of Illinois have been able to approximate the atomic weight of such a canopy. This crystalline canopy would put a cap on the atmosphere. Atmospheric pressure today is at sea level 14.7 pounds per square inch. Before the flood, the air pressure would have been about 2 times what it is today. So we have the ratio of oxygen in the atmosphere would have been about 30% more compared to about 21% today. Some researchers have concluded that due to the pre-flood atmospheric conditions, which had greater amounts of oxygen, man could have run up to 200 miles without suffering fatigue. It has been discovered in hyperbaric medical chamber experiments that under these circumstances, an open wound would heal overnight. It is therefore understandable how man could have lived to be several hundred years old even after the fall, for in this pre-flood world, heavier air pressure and more oxygen in the atmosphere were conducive to longer life. Another factor in the pre-flood environment which was in man's favor was less radiation from the sun, especially ultraviolet. The canopy above the earth acted as a filter to trap most of the short-wave radiation. It is the short-wave radiation that is causing man many problems today. Before the flood, almost all of the harmful radiation would have been filtered out by the water canopy. So today, because of harmful short-wave radiation, man suffers genetic damage, cancer, and other huge health damage factors that shorten the lifespan. Also, there are certain microbes and disease germs that could not live in the pre-flood atmosphere. In addition, there was a mist each morning that aided the oxygenation of the entire water table. More oxygen in the water would account for great whales, great sharks, and the chambered nautilus marine life forms that were gargantuan in size. The fossil record bears evidence of that such creatures existed, but without more oxygen in the waters today, they could not live in contemporary ocean, seas, or rivers. The theory of evolution does not provide an answer as to how such enormous marine monsters live, but the creation model does provide an answer. An additional beneficial characteristic would be the extra oxygen in the atmosphere, and with the great assimilation of oxygen in the air, man was possibly 20% larger than he is today. Adam and Noah were probably about 7 feet tall, and there were others who were even taller. The environmental context before the flood would exercise the full genetic viability for all life forms. Full genetic viability means the full capacity of a species to produce characteristics within its own species without changing such. For example, today the dragonfly, which is a superior helicopter, has a wingspan not exceeding 6 inches. But in the fossil record, dragonflies have been found with wingspans of up to 36 inches. But in the fossil record, dragonflies have been found with wing tips up to 36 inches. There has to be such an explanation as to how some point in time dragonflies grew to such gigantic dimensions. It would certainly require a greater concentration of oxygen. Conditions that would support such monstrous life forms, even in the insect world, scientifically dictate that there had to be such a canopy above the earth. In order to provide that much oxygen, it would have to approach the level of toxicity unless the atmospheric pressure was greater. Again, such an atmospheric condition can only be explained in terms of a firmament. Therefore, we have to follow the biblical record of creation specifically, or the environmental chain breaks into unconnected parts. The greater atmospheric pressure with approximately 30% oxygen would have created optimal conditions. Thus, dragonflies could have grown to a size supporting a 36-inch wingspan. Consider another illustration. In West Texas, there has been found a fossilization pterodactyl, a flying reptile with a wingspan of 52 feet. There is no way this flying monster, as it has been called, could have flown with the current atmospheric pressure. That would have been utterly impossible. But with an atmospheric pressure of approximately 32 pounds per square inch, this flying pterodactyl would have had a field day. A firmament of compressed hydrogen held in place by a layer of crystalline water would keep the temperature at a consistent level. NASA has discovered in the examination of superconductive materials that when held near a magnet, the lines of force generated in the free flow of electromagnetic energy hold the materials in place, either above it or below it. In other words, researchers have not been able to find a mechanism for holding up water canopy